Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women's results at the top of the sport, but the full story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. Women of Distance is proudly supported by OpenFuel, responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check out their products and their mission at openfuel.co and use code WOD for 20% off every order, every time. This podcast is also supported by Soar Running, apparel collections designed specifically for running, for high-performance racing, and also for off-road adventure and endurance. Find them at soarrunning.com. That's SOAR running.com. We are also kept caffeinated by our friends and fellow trail runners at Summit Roasters. Visit summit-roasters.com and use code WOD15 for 15% off your order every time. We'd love to see Women of Distance listeners supporting those supporting us. You can find all of these links and codes in the show notes, and you can also head over to the Women of Distance Substack to learn more about how I'm using these in my own life and training. Without further ado, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy. Okay, I am hanging out with Sydney Petersen. Welcome back to the Women of Distance podcast, Sydney. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to chat with you again.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I'm excited for this conversation. Last time we talked, it's been a while, was right before World Trail Champs, which was September, maybe it was even end of August at the time that we talked. You are now coming off of Zegama, where you were the top American female. You also ran your first ultra marathon this year. I am really excited to catch up on recent events, but maybe even more so, last time we talked was really a race preview sort of conversation. And I'm excited to have a longer form conversation this time and really get to know you and get to know what brought you to where you are in sport today and in life today. So let's do that. Let's go all the way back. Where did athletics first enter your life?
So athletics first entered my life. I grew up in Crested Butte and in a family of just total ski bums. So kind of the dream childhood, just access to nature right outside my front door. I also have two brothers. One's a twin and the other's really close in age. And we were always just doing stuff as a family, like ever since I can remember. I think I was on skis at 1 year old, like right after I learned how to walk. And so that was just a huge part of the way I grew up from a super young age. First, sport looked a lot more like family ski days on the weekends and just going on hikes and exploring nature. And then it gradually evolved into more of a team sport thing, and grew up playing a lot of team sports, and I found running a lot later than most people. And then I went on to have a NCAA track career. I ran Division I track and cross country at Colorado State in Fort Collins. And then kind of took some time off of running and just worked. And then started going to trail races just for fun. And then that has slowly evolved into what it is now.
I'm really excited to get into talking about trail and where that is taking you now. But come back a little bit to earlier childhood, growing up with such an active lifestyle. Where did running specifically enter the picture for you? Having sort of that maybe a more free initial experience to athletics, where did it start to become an organized sport for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I guess really later on in high school, Crested Butte is a super small rural town. So, there weren't a ton of opportunities for organized running until later on in high school anyways, and the team sports we had were pretty limited. And so a lot of times athletics honestly looked like we don't have a girls team, but we have one baseball team with all these boys. I will let you play. So it was a lot of just playing sports as the only girl, as like a 10-year-old girl on this team of boys. And I think that kind of instilled a lot of just quiet confidence and like sureness in myself without even realizing it. And I just thought that was the way like everybody grew up, but turns out not at all. And I had family that was into running. My mom just runs recreationally, and then my aunt was a really good trail runner, and also ran track for North Carolina way back in the day. But before trail running was really what it is now, she was super into it. So I always knew it was kind of a thing. And then played basketball, played volleyball, pretty much any team sport I could. It was just such a means for building community, and I really fell in love with that and being a part of a team. But um, I mean, I remember my basketball team, there were games where we had 5 girls on the court and no subs, and we'd get beat by, like, 42 to 2, and just because we were such a small school in such a small town, and our season was 10 weeks, and nobody trained outside, and I'm innately pretty competitive and hate losing, and I started running kind of just with my mom for fun, and then ran track my freshman year of high school and loved the idea of the like, seeing the work I put in directly translate to
Mm.
results, and that was a nice contrast from my team sport experience, and slowly, I just started spending more time with running, ended up running cross country my junior and senior years of high school, along with track and spending more and more time with it, and I just loved I mean, I grew up in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and towards the end of high school, it was like, I don't wanna be in a gym playing volleyball. I wanna be outside running in the aspen trees and in this beautiful mountain town and taking advantage of that, and so, yeah, it kinda just, like, it was a slow, process, but yeah, I ran some fast times the fall of my senior year in cross country, and that was good enough to walk on to a college team, and so, yeah.
That was gonna be my question. What sorta when you did discover this and have that sort of autonomy that you are still part of a team, you still have that community aspect, but you also really get that individual
Mhm.
payoff, from your hard work. What events were you finding were your favorites in those high school days?
Yeah, I would kinda run anything from, like, the 400 and the sprint medley through the 2 mile, and I just loved I didn't really care what the event was, I would definitely gravitated towards the distance events, but I just loved right from the beginning in running, like, pushing my body as hard as I could and, like, tasting blood at the end of an 800 or something, and yeah, I just loved that from a super young age and felt really drawn to it.
Okay, so this makes a lot of sense to me. The first time we talked for World Trail Champs, you were on the VK team, and that's the first thing I think of is tasting blood, tasting pennies in a VK. So that love for that kind of competition started early for you. I think that's cool.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about your college experience and what was that like for you, both the transition of moving away from Crested Butte and also the transition to structured college running college competition.
Yeah, so I had a pretty I wouldn't say lackluster because it was a very fulfilling experience, but I don't know, you look at all the girls who have transitioned out of the NCAA recently and who were on the track at the same time I was, like Lauren and Anna and Allie and Sarah Carter and kinda that whole group. All of them were All-Americans and these like, had these crazy performances in college, and I feel like that was not me at all. I got like, a little bit better each year and was super consistent, but just was kind of, like, middle of the pack. I'd get ninth place at conference in the steeplechase, and I had an amazing team and great coaches and absolutely loved my time at Colorado State, and it really taught me how to train, and I mean, I came in as a high schooler running 10 to 20 miles a week for 12 weeks of the year, and then I was just playing other sports, so just learning how to train and run year round took, like, 2 or 3 years of my college career, but once I
Mhm.
built that base and stuff, I started having some good races, and yeah, it wasn't anything crazy performance-wise, but it was very fulfilling. It definitely left me wanting more towards the end, I helped build the culture of the team definitely, and with the transfer portal opening and stuff, I was just always a little bit of luck. It was just a little bit of bad luck too, but was always the first person or second person out from making the cross country national team. And so it kind of just left like me wanting more at the end of my college career. And so I may have not achieved quite everything I wanted in my college career, but I learned how to train and um yeah, yeah.
I think that really says something. I think that's actually, and maybe in hindsight now too, a healthy place to be to come out of college really
Mhm.
wanting more because you are just beginning and you have so much more ahead of you. Maybe elaborate a little bit on what sort of values and things you were learning about both yourself and yourself as an athlete during this time as you were learning how to train, learning how to compete, and still kind of finding yourself in this mid pack spot. What kind of uh, what kind of things did that instill in you? How did that impact you in a mental, emotional sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really made me value consistency, like, the body of work I can stand on now from my college career and just 5 years of being pretty healthy through college running. Um, I just showed up every day and did the work, and it was nothing glamorous, but, at the end of my career, like, I still had some good performances and stuff, and, um, I think it also taught me just, like, don't let comparison ruin your experience because I had all these teammates, like, having incredible performances and just, like, having kind of coming out of nowhere and having these huge breakthroughs, and I never really did. So just, like, don't let comparison make you envious of your teammates, and, don't let it ruin your own process either.
I love that. That's huge, especially at that time when it would be very easy to put yourself in that place and in a competitive college environment to I'm not sure even what the phrase I'm looking for is, but I'll leave it with what you said
Yeah.
because you said it very well. But yeah, that's impressive. Um, elaborate a little bit. You mentioned that coming out of college, you took a little bit of a break from running. Talk about that transition. Coming out of college, what did you do and what inspired you to take that time away?
Yeah, I guess it was only, like, a few months of time away and just, like, a lot of time away from racing. I just like anybody out of college, got a full-time job. I was working as a medical assistant for, a orthopedic surgeon at a clinic in Fort Collins, and it was a pretty, like parts of the job were kind of stressful and just overwhelming at times, and, I started just kinda getting back into running again as a nice way to clear my head after the end of a really long day of work and just kind of as a sense of normalcy transitioning out of college, like, it's something I was used to having every day and kind of took some time off, but then got back into it for those reasons, and then, um, growing up in Crested Butte, I was always exposed to trail races and trail running, and my mom and I had always said when I was done with college running, we were gonna run the Imogene Pass together,
Mm.
or Imogene Pass run together, and so we went and did that, the fall after I graduated, and I ended up having a really good performance there, and it was kind of like a spiritual experience for me, like, I hadn't been running that much, but it was just one of those moments in life where you just feel a very strong sense of belonging and that you're in the right place doing the right things, and, that was kind of a turning point in my running career where it was just like, I love moving my body and pushing my body as much as I did in high school. I love the process of training for things and I love moving through mountains. And I feel like I'm way better at trail running than I ever was running around a track in college. And so I didn't have huge goals of like, I want to be a professional trail runner. And if I could have seen where I'm at now at that point in my life, I don't know if I would have believed it, but just like started putting races on the calendar and, training again because I just had a really positive experience there and realized I still had a fire and wasn't done with it, and, loved again, like, being able I love this about trail races, like, anybody can sign up and line up for these races. The fact that I was able to race the same race as my mom and, like, stand next to her on the starting line, like, how cool is that? It just doesn't really get any better than that, and, I feel like the trail community just has so many, of my values in it, like, it's in moving through beautiful places and obviously in the mountains, and I love pushing myself, but it's also just a really a means for building community and relationships, and I really love that. And then I think I went to Broken Arrow that spring and had a really good race, and then kind of one thing after another, started going to a little bit more competitive races in the United States, and then connected with Brooks, and that kind of became what it is now. So,
So, elaborate on this a little bit. I think that's really inspiring the way that trail sort of awakened this other side, not other side, but maybe new side of you. Talk a little bit about the process of like learning those things, like learning how to train on trail after you had come off of the track and cross country and the college career. And was there anybody who was sort of like helping you learn and discover what it was like to train and to compete on trails?
yeah, a lot of it was figuring it out by myself and just kind of trusting my gut, and going to cool races. Stevie Kramer, who is from Crested Butte and one of the most underrated trail runners of all time, I think she's I think in 1 year she won Zegama, Sierra Pikes Peak, like all these races. She's just one of the most incredible female athletes ever. But Crested Butte's a super small place to grow up, and she was a teacher at the school I went to growing up and was kind of a mentor through my high school running and would run with me from time to time and kind of just became a family friend. And so she was a sounding board of like, oh, you could try to make the Team USA, or you could go to this race, or this race is really cool. And she kind of, I always knew what trail running was because of her and thought of it as something I could see myself doing someday, even as like a 15-year-old just getting into track because of what I saw her do. Um, and so kind of at that point, she was advising me on like how to talk to at the time it was Brooks, and just navigate that process, and has been a really good sounding board and mentor ever since I was 15, kind of getting into running, and now I'm 26 and kind of doing a lot more things closer to what she did. So
That's very cool. That's an incredible relationship and resource to have on your side. Talk a little bit about earning your way into a Brooks sponsorship. What did it mean to you to earn that sponsorship, and also how did it change things for you?
yeah, that's a really good question. I have so much gratitude for Brooks because at the time I had a few good performances, but nothing crazy. There were so many other women who had way better performances than me and a much more thorough resume. And I just really value the potential they saw in me and their belief in me from the very beginning. And what that enabled me to like, the support of a brand enabled me to travel a lot more to races and actually participate in the Golden Trail series like I did last year, and travel to Broken Arrow and be able to make the world team. And um yeah, their belief in me from the beginning and then the support they've given me, I like would not be in the spot I am today without them. And that's really cool.
That is really cool. I don't want to skip over the last year that you had, because last year was significant. You ran a lot. You ran on a lot of international stages, and it seems like really gained a lot of experience and gained a lot of momentum. As we mentioned, you represented Team USA at World Championships. You ran the Golden Trail World Series and World Final. Coming to the end of the year, what were some of your reflections on all that you did last year, and some of the thought processes about, okay, what's next? What is coming up for 2026? How did your experiences in 2025 impact your planning for 2026?
Yeah. I think the overwhelming feeling finishing last year was just so much gratitude. Like, it's not lost on me how cool and how much of a privilege it is to be able to travel the world and do my favorite thing and meet people and experience different cultures and stuff. And that just never gets old for me. It's so much more than just the racing. It's everything that goes along with the racing. And I just still, like, every day wake up and just have so much gratitude for the way my life looks, and finished last year with that feeling. And I think naturally growing up in Crested Butte, and this is reflected in my results from last year, I'm a really good uphill runner, and really good at those shorter, really high intensity uphill emphasis races. I think from just living and growing up at high altitude, I mean, we're at 9, 10,000 feet up here in Crested Butte. And so I knew, like, I reflecting off of last year, I knew that was one of my strong points, but I, especially in the Golden Trail races, really struggled when races got longer and the technical downhill specifically, I really struggled with. So I don't know, this year, Golden Trail's really big, but it's not a world's year. And so I really prioritized, and this is kind of not the most exciting answer, but built my racing schedule around less around results and more about selecting races that would be a challenge and that would make me a better runner. So a lot of the races you'll see on my schedule this year, like Zegama, for example, are a lot longer and are like very technical downhills and stuff. And so, yeah, I guess my schedule is designed around just becoming a more well-rounded trail runner this year, and hopefully that'll be a good, stepping stone for years to come as well.
Yeah, that's very insightful. In addition to Stevie's advice and guidance, have you been coaching yourself all along this time, or have you been working with a coach at all?
So I actually still work with my college assistant coach. His name's Andrew Epperson. He's been coaching me since I was 18 years old, and, um, he's not a trail runner himself, but knows me so well and is just such a good sounding board and knows what I respond to in training so well. And so, yeah, still working with him. And so I think it's more of a collaboration too. It's a lot of me
I was just gonna ask that,
being
yeah.
like, I think I need this today, or I mean, I pick all my races and stuff. And yeah, like have a strong voice. And it's really powerful in a coaching relationship to feel like you can speak your mind. And yeah, it's almost something you're growing together and not just like a coach telling an athlete what to do. And I just really value my coach and I's relationship, and it's worked so well over so many years. So
That's very cool. Elaborate then. So you started the year, and it's obvious to see the reasoning now as you're talking about, really wanting to build your endurance and build your base. Where did the idea to run an ultra marathon enter the picture?
honestly, I knew it was Zagama was one of my 8 races for this year. But I'm such a short sub ultra person, at least in my past. And I, before Desert Rats 50K, which was the ultra marathon you're talking about, I had not run over 20 miles before, and the longest I'd ever ran was Sierra Zinal the year before. So I really just for a durability and health standpoint and to make sure I could handle Zagama, wanted to do Desert Rats kind of as a training effort and just like learn how to make sure I can handle the fueling and was taking in enough calories during the race and kind of how to pace it and just what that effort feels like. And I had a ton of fun with the distance. And yeah, yeah, had a great time, and I ended up getting a qualifier for OCC, um, through off of, like, Index or something, for next year, so that might be on the horizon for next year, but, yeah, I think I picked Desert Rats with the priority of just making sure I was setting myself up for success for Zegama and just building a really solid base in terms of, like, durability, for the rest of the season to come.
Yeah. So talk about what you came out of that race with. What kind of things do you feel like you learned? What did you do well and what challenged you and you felt like you needed to grow upon or improve before Zagama?
I think, honestly, Desert Rats was a huge confidence boost. My fueling was perfect, and I just had a lot of fun with the race, which is a total just, I think, green flag and good sign going into something like Zagama. I did push the pace way too early, and the last 6 miles were absolutely terrible, but, yeah, I think just learned to be patient the first 2 hours of a race in a way you aren't in sub ultra or especially a VK. But yeah, I think doing desert ruts just made me really confident in my abilities and my training and my fitness for Zegama. And I was really grateful to have had that race under my belt, especially the first 2 hours of Zegama, because it went out pretty fast. And I mean, it ended up being a 5 hour race for me. So, I mean, that's a lot of time on feet. And just knowing like I was in uncharted territory, but it wasn't all that unfamiliar was comforting and gave me a lot of confidence.
For sure. Talk about Zagama. I am so excited to talk about this race specifically. The first question I wanted to ask is what inspired you to choose it and put it on your schedule as a big goal for yourself this year?
Yeah, so again, gonna go back to Stevie Kramer. She's like the only American, not even just American woman, but only American who have ever won this race. And just I remember being, I think 14 or 15 and seeing like in the newspaper or something that she had won this race, and then going on YouTube and learning about the crowds and just how iconic of a trail race it is, and kind of always knew at some point I wanted to do it. And Golden Trail is definitely a priority this year, and I think it just fits well with what I was saying earlier of wanting to really push myself and the things I'm not super na the things that aren't coming super naturally to me, at this point in my trail career, which is, like, really technical downhills and longer races, and so I just felt like it was the perfect time to really gain a lot of experience, so yeah, felt like it was the perfect time for that.
Okay, elaborate on the connection with Stevie, not only in having seen her run, win, and experience this race before, but she was there this year, correct? At the race at the same time. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was the 25th anniversary of the race, so they flew all of the previous winners out, or offered to at least, for the race. And she wasn't racing, but was just on scene. And I don't know, it's really cool going to these international races where English probably isn't the dominant language spoken, and just having a piece of home with you there is such a cool feeling. And like I idolize her. She's the coolest human ever, and just inside and outside of running, the way she structures her life and just approaches everything with such balance and gives back to her community is so cool. And I could talk about that for hours, but yeah, just having her there was like a gift for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Talk about the race itself. I think most listeners are familiar with it superficially, sort of like I am from watching the live stream and watching on YouTube. I know there are a few listeners who have run it before themselves, but tell us a little bit, like boots on the ground. What was the environment and your experience like? Not even the race yet, but just sort of being there and being in the excitement of it all.
Um, Honestly, it just the whole race and environment, and just for context, I think there were 100,000 fans over that on the course, and just it gives me faith in humanity to see that many people just out on course encouraging and making people feel a sense of belonging and feel loved and cared for. And that in itself, I don't know, it's just Zagama is so cool because it's about running, it's a running race, but I left feeling like it has absolutely nothing to do with running, and just like who we are innately as human beings. And um yeah, it just the crowds and just moving through the mountains with people who are so excited about this sport was one of the coolest things I'll experience in my life. And I was terrified going into this race because it was definitely for people who have run Zagama. Sometimes it's a dry course. A lot of times the weather makes it pretty wet and treacherous. But I'm not exaggerating when there was calf deep mud for multiple miles of the course. And like, I think the race started, it was super hectic and chaotic, and then about it was between, like, maybe 3K and 8K, just everybody was falling, and the mud was just insane, and I think everybody just kinda started laughing, like, it was just a comical thing. And I know there's this video that
What are
was
you going to
blasted,
do? Yeah.
on Golden Trail, but there was this part of the course that, and I think this video is just very representative of the whole experience, but it's like a 20% grade grassy hill, and you have the best runners in the world, like Sarah Alonso, who lives in the Basque region of Spain, and like um, Daniel Pattis, Taylor Stack, like all just falling down this hill and slip and sliding. And that was just a perfect representation of what the entire race was like. Um, Obviously, Santu Spiritu, the part of the climb where there's just a super condensed, like there's so many fans. I got to the ridge and my ears were ringing and I was like choked up because it was just like one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in terms of just it's so much bigger than running. Just feeling that level of encouragement and support, like, is one of the coolest things anybody can I hope everybody in their life in some avenue experiences that, like, such concentrated emotion and, like, love and belonging because that's what I felt in that moment, and I think going back to Imogene Pass run and just having really turning point moments in my running career, like, I'll look back as this being one of them and just, like, very moments that like are representative of why we do this and like have really strong concentrated like positive emotions associated with them.
Yeah, I love that. Talk about we know how this race was gonna challenge you. You said the
Mhm.
distance and the technical downhills. Talk about coming into it, what you felt like your strengths were for this particular course.
Yeah, I'm a really good climber, so as expected, the climb felt great, and that's where I made up a lot of time. I went out pretty slow just because I wasn't sure with the conditions what to expect. I also wanted mentally to not be just in the well for the technical downhill in the mud
Mm.
because not only am I like putting myself in danger of like taking a really serious fall or getting hurt, but just wanted to have enough left in my legs, but also just emotionally and mentally to be able to attack that, and I think I raced well in terms of that, and then the last, I'd say maybe 10, 12K is pretty runnable, quick downhill, and so I did really well, and I knew I would do well on that part of the course as well, um, and the ridge, I think just from scrambling ridges and climbing peaks, like, from a very young age, I really liked that part as well, and then, the slippery, rocky, technical downhill definitely lived up to the hype, but I think when you make a race less about results and more about gaining experience, it just you already feel like you've won. And I think I'm excited to see the ways I grow like outside of Zegama this year with just that being the priority. And obviously I'm very innately competitive and am striving to get the best results possible, but it's just a nice feeling in a race where the goal is experience and bettering yourself as an athlete. So
Yeah. What kind of things are you talking to yourself about as you go through this race then? Like with that goal and that mindset of learning, gaining experience, how are you doing that in real time as you go through the race?
I think just trying to keep things positive and just really trusting my body. The race obviously went out really, really fast. It's just a super competitive, deep field, and I was feeling a little sorry for myself. Like 90 minutes in because I was a little farther back than I wanted to be, but just I don't know, trusting my body and what it's doing and my experience, and just trying to say things to myself that really affirm that. Was a lot of what that looked like earlier in the race and just, like, I think on the downhill, it was more like, it was less thinking and just more responding to what was in front of me. Like, my there was nothing really happening in my brain other than just looking 10 feet ahead and looking at my next steps, so
Yeah. Okay, walk us through the course a little bit and your actual race day. Like you said, it took off fast. What does the course actually look like in those early miles? And then kind of take us through it from there. What are the first few miles of the course like?
yeah, so it starts in the Zegama town and then climbs pretty quick, um, and then there's a lot of just runnable, grassy, and in turn super, super muddy. I think from about 3K to maybe 20K was kind of just rolling hills, obviously a net gain in elevation, but all of it was very runnable. And then you hit a pretty steep climb at around 20K and then top out at a ridge. And there's a total of 9,000 feet in the of climbing in the race. I think about 6,000 of that is leading up to the ridge. And then you traverse across the ridge, do a pretty technical descent, and then go into one more climb that I think is 2 or 3,000 feet, and then kind of finish on more not quite a fire road, but similar grade to a fire road and just really bombable downhill, kind of back into the town. So, yeah.
In addition to the massive number of spectators that come out and climb these mountains to be out there on those climbs for you, which is just so cool to watch. I can only imagine the energy that you're pulling from that. How surrounded are you by other competitors, by other runners? How dense is the trail for some of those sections?
Yeah, the first, I'd say pretty much up until the ridge, you were running with people, or at least I was. And then there's parts of the course where there's so many people around you, and then the visibility was pretty low just in terms of fog and cloudiness, and then also just the terrain limits visibility sometimes. But then there's other times where there's nobody around you and it's just yourself. So there's moments of extreme quiet and time by yourself, and then there's also these moments where you have hundreds of people right around you screaming in your face, like 5 or 6 inches away, and also competitors, um, in like all directions. So
It's really a
yeah,
contrast,
yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. It really has everything. This race. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Talk a little bit about the support on course. How much of your own fueling, hydration, those sorts of things are you carrying with you, and how often do you have support along the way?
So we're super lucky with Brooks. They really prioritize having a ton of staff on scene, especially for these bigger races like Zegama. So I really didn't carry much because we had staff on course so frequently handing us bottles and handing us gels. And I think besides fueling too, just seeing your people on course gives you such a boost. And so I think um, I attribute a lot of that to just having a good result at this race is just feeling so supported by my brand, and by Brooks. And yeah, I think I fueled really, really well. Was taking in a ton of water, a ton of drink mix, and then gels as well. I think I have a pretty strong stomach too. So yeah, felt really good in terms of fueling and yeah, so much gratitude for our Brooks crew because every time you needed them, they were right around the corner, at an aid station handing you what you needed. So huge shout out to them.
You mentioned a big part of your goal was coming to those technical downhills feeling strong and energized. I'm sure fueling is a big part of that too. How do you feel like when you got to that section of the race? How do you feel like you responded and handled it?
I think I was so pleased with how I handled it. I think everything in terms of fueling and just also my headspace couldn't have been better. I think a lot of that is from just the crowds on that climb and leading into the ridge. Like you're on top of the world physically, but also just I don't know how you can feel any more uplifted and ready. Like you for lack of better words, I feel like running through Santu Spiritu and just all those crowds, you feel like you can run through a brick wall. Like after all of those people just screaming at you, you feel like you can do anything. And so then going to the part of the race right after that that I was most concerned and like apprehensive about, like nothing can go wrong. Like when you feel the way that I did. And then just I think raced really smart and fueled really well. And that helped too. But yeah, I'm very pleased with how that section went. And it's nice when in a race where you're passing people on the downhill too, and you're like, oh, this is the part I thought I was going to do bad at, and it's actually not going quite as badly as I thought it would. So definitely a confidence boost, and yeah, good feedback.
Yeah. Talk about coming into the finish line, and you mentioned this really felt like a sort of another transformational, impactful experience for you. When you are coming into the finish, what are some of those immediate feelings as you're finishing? And also, maybe what have you sort of learned and processed since then over the past few days?
Yeah. I think the finish is brutal because it's just this super steep road right into town, and my quads were just, like, thrashed at that point, and so just I was so ready for that road to be over, but just really trying to soak up that experience. There were so many people, just in the town when you get there, and, I crossed the finish line, and I don't know, Brooks really emphasizes the team side of things, and my partner, Taylor Stack, was also there racing, and he ended up getting 3rd and having just an incredible day, kind of a breakthrough in his running career. So to cross the finish line and see that he got 3rd and then Daniel Pattis, one of our Brooks teammates, got 2nd, like, it's so cool finishing a race and then just wanting to know how all your friends did and learning that they crushed it. It's just a really cool feeling, and it's so fun to celebrate with them and all your people you've met that weekend and just cheering their races, and I love debriefing everybody's adventure and just the carnage that they dealt with during the race. That's one of my favorite things, like, yeah, after a race.
Do you feel like getting the chance to do that with friends, with teammates, do you feel like you are learning anything from their experiences in addition to your own?
Oh, for sure, and I feel like I'm at a point in my career in terms of trails where I'm pretty young and inexperienced still, so I love hearing what other people did and how they raced and attacked things and fueled and how they handled really technical, hard parts of the course and, everything from, like, what shoes people are wearing to what fueling they're doing, how consistently they're doing it, how much water versus salt they're taking in, and that's more of a personal, preference, I think, but, yeah, you just learn so much from how other people do things, and especially my first time being in this race, I was that annoying person to the Brooks team all weekend being like, "So what do you think I should do here? Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about your first time running Zegama?" And just all the questions, but I don't know. It's everybody has times in their running career where they're the one asking questions and then also times where they're sharing experiences, so
So, talk about some of those lessons then, for both from your own experience, from those around you. What do you feel like you are coming out of this weekend with? What kind of experiences and learnings did you gain out there?
yeah, I think I'm leaving pretty satisfied with a lot of renewed confidence, just in that I can do these things that I've considered myself maybe not super strong at, and I am excited about the progress I'm making just even from running Sears and all last year, which I guess is a very different race, but competitive wise and just fame wise is kind of on the same level as the Gama. I feel like mentally, I'm handling myself and the pressure a lot better than I did last year and just being in that competitive environment a lot better. I think takeaways from the race is, yeah, I'm doing a lot of things right. I want to keep really working on strength training because that's something I've incorporated a lot more into my training this year. And just in terms of like durability and also agility, I felt a huge improvement and attribute a lot of that to strength training and the work I've been doing. Um, and then I think just continue training downhill specifically. I think in running, it's especially trail running, it's hard sometimes to train downhill specifically, just because it beats your legs up. But it's so necessary to have that same like race stimulus and just teaching your brain and muscles how to connect. In that sense. So that's definitely something I want to keep incorporating a lot more consistently in my training. Um, yeah.
So, what are you carrying all of these lessons forward to? What do you have coming up next on your schedule for the summer and the fall?
So broken arrows next. I'm gonna do the VK and the 23K, and then go out to Canada for that Golden Trail race in Quebec, and then Golden Trail in Austria, and then Sierre and all. Um, and then we'll be out for UTMB week, and I think Brooks is doing a little like Brooks is just a lot of teammates are there kind of around that time. So we'll be in Chamonix training, and I think I want to run ETC as well. And then just the Golden Trail final. So I feel excited in the sense that my longest races of the year are done, and we're kind of
Yeah.
going to shorter stuff and stuff that's a little bit more comfortable. And I'm excited to take kind of what I've learned from my experiences earlier this year and kind of with the Golden Trail final last year, and then take that and apply it to races coming up this year. So
Yeah, it's very cool to see you have the opportunity to do that, like coming back to some races that you've done before and coming into them now with more experience. And also, I'm so curious just about the mental side of having done these longer distances now. How does that impact you when you come back to some of your shorter, more familiar distances? Eh, how does your training change coming off of these longer formats and getting ready and tuning up for things like the VK and the 23K at Broken Arrow?
I honestly don't think it'll change too much. I think just a little bit prioritizing more leg speed and uphill specific VO2 max efforts. I do a lot of road running still in my training and faster um, reps like that. So I guess my answer is not a ton, but maybe a little bit more focused on the runnable, faster, like high intensity stuff in comparison to what I've been doing.
Okay, I think one last question I had for you, and this is maybe too far away to answer for sure, but at Desert Rats, you said you earned your spot into OCC for 2027. Is that a distance and a race that you think you're interested in taking on next year?
Yes, I am absolutely I would love another year to develop into feeling more confident with 50Ks and, that distance, but there were glimmers in these the results weren't anything incredible, but there were moments where I felt like I could be really, really good at the 50K distance if I focus a lot more on that and give myself another year of really consistent training to develop towards that. And so that is something on the horizon that excites me a lot. So
I think I'm really hearing a lot of reflection from maybe your college experience and sort of having this patience of developing yourself over that 4 year period that you
mhm.
had. And now at this point, having that maturity and that patience to do the same thing now and really learn and allow yourself the room to develop over time. I think that's an interesting mindset to be able to take and a mature mindset to be able to take.
Yeah, yeah. I do take a lot of pride in approaching things that way. And I think honestly, that's yeah, I might not be the most talented athlete out there, but that's why I've gotten to the place I am now is just not getting too high or too low and just kind of being really consistent about the way I approach things. And I honestly, I thank my high school coaches for that a lot. I had really good coaches in high school that just were there for the right reasons and gave me a really healthy mindset around the sport and how to train appropriately and just not overdo things. And I think a lot of the way I approach things now and my mindset is still from what I learned there. So,
So, this is maybe a good segue into my closing question for us today. And that's if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be? Maybe 20 is too recent. High school,
yeah,
your high school self.
yeah. I think first I would give the affirmation that you're doing everything right. Like, you don't have to be all in on running as an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old to find success. And it might even be better that way for the long term. And um, the fact that like build a fulfilling life first, and like your running results will come with that. Um, and so I would like affirm that I am doing that because I think sometimes as in high school I struggled with seeing other athletes I raced against just having these like, crazy results and also just training so hard, maybe above an age appropriate level. And I think,
Mm.
yeah, I would want to tell myself that you're doing everything right and just keep doing exactly what you're doing. But I think from a competitive standpoint, I would tell myself, like, keep this is kind of paradoxical to say that this right after what I'm saying about training, but in terms of racing, like, keep try pursuing the highest level in the things that excite you. Like, yes, go run college track if that excites you. Go be around people that are better. Go do races that you're not good at and you might fail miserably, but also like what if you succeed? And my running career has been so much of that. I've had so many races where it hasn't gone well and I've just gotten my butt kicked by so many people who were like, on the starting line, supposed to be better than me, and then they totally, like, crushed me in the race, but then there's also been times where, I've ended up on top, and I think, yeah, I would just tell myself to have the confidence to keep chasing after really big goals and really hard things, and you do belong on really big starting lines.
I love that. I love that. Sydney, thank you so much for sharing not only your experience from last weekend, but also just a little bit of your story and a lot of those insights. I've really been inspired by the way that you are approaching the sport, not just obviously from a performance perspective, but also from a mental perspective. I think it's very neat to see, and I'm really excited to see where the rest of the year, the rest of the season carries you. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and giving me the space to kinda share a little bit more into my running story and background, and yeah, it's great to chat with you again.
Hmm.